morning, staff. Are we ready?
This meeting is now called to order. We will begin with the roll call. Mr. Castro, would you please take roll?
Mr. Frank,
Here.
Ms. Delman,
Here.
Mrs. Flores,
Here.
and Jaramillo, Mr. Jaramillo.
Present.
Seems like we have a quorum.
And I'm here.
Okay, so I would like to introduce our student advisor, Ernesto. Welcome to the dais.
Mr. President and members of the board, thank you.
You are certainly welcome. And we are now going to pledge allegiance. Will you all please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y de la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you. So I think I just messed up pledging the flag after doing it in a teaching career about 3,800 times, but I promise to do better next time.
We didn't
So-
even notice.
Ms. Dowman did notice.
Oh,
So we're going to now go to the approval of the minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 23rd, 2018, closed executive and regular session, February 6, 2018, closed executive and work session, and February 20, 2018, closed executive session.
So move.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Any opposition? There, none, so this passes unanimously. We will now move to the approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I see no opposition, so that also is approved. And now we will move to approval of consent agenda items. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items VC4, student out-of-state travel, VD2, approval of budget adjustment requests, VD3, approval of disposal of property, and VD4, approval of February vendor payments.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that also passes unanimously. I am now going to report on the closed executive session. The board met in closed executive session on March 13th, 2018, from 5:08 p.m. to 5:49 p.m. to discuss A, limited personnel matters as permitted under Section 10-15-H2, specifically for the superintendent to update the board regarding the investigations of certified and classified employees by the superintendent, and to inform the board of specific employee movements. And B, discussion of personally identifiable information about individual students as permitted under Section 10-15-1H4 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically so the superintendent can update the board regarding student investigations and claims. Now I can breathe. At this point, we're going to move on to recognitions, and I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for that.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience. I'm going to call forward Ms. Bridget Ziegelhofer, who's going to lead us through this activity, and I'm going to ask if the board members would join me up front so that we can congratulate each of the recognition students this evening.
Sounds good.
As we do that, I'm going to invite my friends from Citizens Bank to join me up here. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, it's always a fun occasion when I can stand up here and celebrate the wonderful partnerships that we have in our community between the school district and our businesses. One of my favorite partnerships, and it's a very strong partnership, is that of Citizens Bank. Not only with our high school debit card program that's been going very strong for many years now, but also with our Marquee program. and their continued support of anything that we call and ask for, most recently our bond election. So this evening I have with us Rena Phillips, who is the Vice President of Marketing, and Tress Libby, who is Senior Vice President. And I'm going to, before we present the wonderful check, I'm going to let them give you an update as to where the program is. Mr. Libby, or who's going to do it?
Thank you. Thank you for having us today. I just want to give you an update on the statistics of the high school Pride debit card program. 2014 was our first year. It generated over $10,000 that we donated to the public school system. Each year it has increased to the 2017 total for $19,500 and change. So over those 4 years, that's almost $62,000 from the high school Pride debit card program. School signage, marquee signs, and scoreboards. There are 10 that we have been a part of, 2 of which are approved and budgeted for this year. Those total $34,000. Once the signs are up at Sonoma Ranch Elementary School and Highland Elementary School, the total signage will amount to $182,000. We just want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. The key to any community's future is its citizens, and we appreciate everything you do, all of your staff, to make the future citizens of our town a brighter place. It's my pleasure to present this check for $19,500 and change. Thank you for everything.
So for our picture, I'd like to invite any of our high school principals that are in the audience to come up and join us. This program also benefits the Las Cruces Public Schools Foundation, and our executive director is here this evening. Betsy Geary, will you join us up front? And I'm happy to announce, we haven't said this yet, but we've just recently added Rio Grande Prep Institute to the program, so they will start seeing benefits of this as well. So thank you for all that you do for our students.
We actually have someone, can we do like 2 rows, so like some people come forward? Okay. Is that better? Yeah, can you, everyone scoot in, just. Okay. Sir Frank, can you actually take a, yeah? That's good. Good. Okay. Final. One more. Thank you.
And again, thank you to Citizens Bank, and we look forward to a long partnership with the high school debit card program. Next, I would like to invite someone who this recognition is long overdue, Mr. Rico Gonzalez, who's the Director of External Affairs of El Paso Electric, and Jennifer Ortiz, who is the Executive Assistant for External Affairs, who we'll just say takes care, yeah, the real boss. And I'd like to invite Betsy Geary again, our Las Cruces Public Schools Executive Director, to join me. Many don't know El Paso Electric is an unsung hero in our community, and we don't recognize their contributions enough. My experience with the district and with the foundation's been about 10 years, and each year the donations they give us to support our teacher grant program is $5,000. That is a lot of money that goes directly to our teachers to support innovation in the classroom, something that we can always support with our operational budget. So we're eternally grateful to El Paso Electric and to Rico, who answers the call for help every time we make it. So we'd just like to present to you a little token of our gratitude and know that you are a partner in the education system.
So can we announce that, so Rico's wife is a teacher in the district, and so he is a great supporter of what we do, so thank you very much.
And 2 kids as well, 2 kids.
Sure, you want to just stand just squeeze in a tiny bit. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Rico. I'll be looking for 5,000.
Well, now we're going to ask for a little more.
We're going up.
Thank you again, Rico and El Paso Electric.
Thank you.
And for our final recognition this evening, I'm going to turn the mic over to our Executive Director, Betsy Geary, because the foundation has a new focus this year, and she speaks very passionately about it.
Thank you, Bridget. Yes, this year, as Terry knows, one of the big things that we've been looking into is to add a new program to help the teachers in our district. And looking at what the needs are, I looked at some statistics. Last year, $1.5 billion that was spent on school supplies was spent by teachers out of pocket. And it works out to about 1% of their salary goes that. Now that's on a national average, and I know our teachers' salaries are not the national average. So our teachers are actually spending a little over 1.5% to almost 2% of their salary, their take-home pay, on classroom supplies. So next year, or this year, we've been working to build up so that next year we can give between 10 and 20 $100 vouchers for classroom supplies every month to teachers. And so we went out and found a lot of different places to pull in some of that money, but we found one nice, really grant that we're here to say thank you to. And so I'd like to ask Eric Pfeiffer, who is the civil engineer tech with Park Hill Smith and Cooper, who is here to present a most of the time when you get grants, you get maybe what you asked for, sometimes a little less. PSC gave us more than we asked for, and so they're here to present a $10,000 check to be our signature sponsor for our classroom teacher supplies for next year. So we do have a plaque to say thank you to Eric. And Eric is a new ex officio member of the board to help us out with this. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Superintendent, Taryn Landy.
Thank you. Yes, if you all just stay there. Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent, we have several students that we are going to recognize tonight. So one of the best parts of my job, and I know one of the main reason you are here, is for the students. So the first student that I would like to call up to the podium is Carla Robles Guzman. Carla, if you would come forward. Carla is an 8th grader at Sierra Middle School, and she recently earned first place in the Las Cruces Public Schools Spanish spelling bee after she correctly spelled the word especialmente. She is now eligible to compete in the state Spanish spelling bee, which will take place April 23rd at the Albuquerque Hispanic Cultural Center. Congratulations to you, Carla.
Oh, no worries.
Michelle, come on up, you can come up, come up. No.
You should be in the photo.
So, we're bringing the principal up here.
The principal had nothing to do with her spelling, but okay.
Especially in Spanish, right?
Smile.
So Ms. Ronga said she had nothing to do with the spelling, but I think they're doing something right at Sierra Middle School because our next student is also a spelling bee champion from Sierra Middle School. So Fateh Aswad, will you please come forward? Fateh is an 8th grader at Sierra Middle School. He earned first place in the Las Cruces Public Schools annual spelling bee after he correctly spelled the word sonata. After winning the district competition, he went on to compete in the El Paso Times Regional Bee, which took place earlier this month, and represented Las Cruces Public Schools beautifully. Congratulations.
So, parents, do you want to come up? You want to come for a picture? Good.
Mom and dad. Mom and
Come on up, buddy. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, now we've got a large contingent of students over here from Oñate High School. 52 students with the Oñate High School HOSA, Future Health Professionals Student Chapter, earned a total of 61 medals at the state competition. A total of 39 students placed in the top 3 of their given competitions. As a result of their success at the state competition, the students will now go on to compete at the International Leadership Conference, June 26th through 30th in Dallas, Texas. We invite the members of the HOSA chapter to come forward and be recognized and take your picture with the board. That was 61. Okay, let's see if we can, squeeze you guys in there.
No, it's all mic'd up and wired. I know. It just,
No, it would just.
the podium just kind of.
All right, who's going to
Okay.
be front and center?
Okay, so if we can get.
You guys have to squeeze in like you like each other. Mr. Shapakam, will you please come forward? there he is back there. Senora, I think you're gonna have to come. Yes, we're on the end. Every one of you needs to make sure that you can see the photographer.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a couple. So.
Perfect, thank you.
Aw. Come back. We have another picture to take. We didn't get them all. Okay, good. Congratulations. Great job. Nope. Let's take one more. You thought that was it, but we have more great kids. So congratulations and good luck to HOSA at your next competition. All right, we have got another group here from Oñate High School. The Student Council from Oñate High School was recently awarded the New Mexico Association of Student Councils Platinum Student Council of the Year Award. This award determines which councils have excelled and demonstrated success in a wide range of student council activities, including community service, citizenship, school service, environmental awareness, and other activities. In order to receive this platinum award, the Oñate Student Council had to maintain the Gold Student Council of the Year status for 3 consecutive years. In addition, the Student Council also earned the Delegates' Choice Award for the Roll Call of the Year. The NMASC Roll Call of the Year competition promotes spirit and camaraderie among participants at the annual state conference as they vocalize a common theme. Oñate Student Council members, would you please come forward and be recognized? Congratulations. Welcome. Congratulations. Congratulations. And you all make sure you don't move till we tell you. Because all the paparazzi, it's like you're on the red carpet. All right, make sure, get there.
Kind of the front.
Right there, good. Make sure you can see the guy with the camera.
I know. There you go. Okay, you stay there, Terry. Yeah, you should be good. Yeah, and if you scoop. Yeah, right there. Cool. Okay. Smile. We got one without it, so yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Parent pictures. You guys are, this is your, enjoy your moment. Good. All right, thank you. Yes. So again, thank you to all of those students for representing Las Cruces Public Schools.
I almost walked back to my old seat. It's always cool.
Ernie will be proud of
Oh,
us.
there you go. Here you go.
Got some hand sanitizer? Oh, thank you so much.
Para las manos.
That was really fun. We're so lucky to have have such dedicated community members and students. It is a pleasure to be involved in these recognitions. But I guess now we need to move on. Are we, Mr. Superintendent, are we done with the recognitions? I think we are.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm going to check with staff. Ms. Lendine, that concluded recognitions? Yes, sir, Mr. President, we're now ready to move to public input.
Yes, we are. Okay, and the first person that we have for public input is Debbie Klur.
You need to read that.
Oh, I need to read, I'm sorry. Where is that?
The statement?
The statement.
Okay, so let's see, I'm looking back.
It would be
Robin, do you have the
notes. If
statement
it's
for the
not there,
president to read for public input?
It's not on the first page?
I do not see it.
Okay.
You get one?
But we could paraphrase what it says. It's our policy to not comment on public input. And there's more to it, which I can't quite remember at this time. Maybe the board can fill me in. Oh, absolutely, there's a time limit. It will be timed. It's 3 minutes. And can the board think of anything else that I need to say with regard to that?
I can't even remember.
Yeah, it's a long statement, and I can't remember too much of it, but I think that's the essence. So maybe we'll go ahead with Debbie. Would you please come forth?
All right, and we will certainly have that in the notebook for the next session, and I apologize to the board. I don't know how we missed that this evening, but we will get it corrected. Karen, are you taking notes?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to address my son's education. My son currently is going to Mayfield High School. He is in the band program, and that is my concern, and that is a lot of parents concerned in the band room. We feel that Mayfield Band 2017 was overall 5th place in many bands here in southern New Mexico, Texas. We have had 6 band directors in 7 years. This has got to stop. Really. This is our children's education. There's been a lot of drama in that band room. And let me tell you, the majority of the students in the band want this to stop. There's just a minimum of people that have gotten somebody's ear. And there has been some unjust done. And we are not going to stand for it. We're not. We're going to rise up. If 3 or 4 people can rise up and do something to the majority of the people, why can't us as the majority stand up against that? We just want justice. And it was not done. It was not done at all. Let me tell you, the counselors were brought in to the band program after their band director had been gone for several weeks without them even knowing what was going on. That is not right. We need to tell our students what's going on with their teachers. The students love their teachers. Why are we treating our teachers this way? It's uncalled for. Uncalled for. This will not be the end of this either. Human resources. Who has been standing up for these teachers? Doesn't anybody understand and realize that there's 20-something teachers, advisors, school people that are suspended? We don't know why the director was suspended. We don't know why. It was unjust, we know that, because we have witnessed the interaction with this band director, with our students. Have you watched the interaction with them? I'm going to close on that because I'm very, very adamant about what's going to be happening with the band program. You will see me again.
Before we move on to the rest of public input, I am going to read the statement. Before we move to public input, I would like to remind our audience of the board's procedure for handling public comment, which are found in Board Policy BDH and on the sign-up card. Each speaker must complete a sign-up card prior to speaking. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual speaker and 5 minutes for each group spokesperson. The board welcomes public input. The board does not prohibit public criticism or comment upon personnel matters. However, any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during the public input section of the board meeting. So with that said, we will now hear from Carol Palacci.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Carol Plackey, and my son is a junior in the Mayfield High School Band. For the past 3 years, our family has been heavily involved with the band program, and we've seen the difference it makes to have strong leadership in our director. I'm here tonight to tell you that for the Mayfield Band program, losing our director is a huge blow. He brought the band to a whole new level, and the band kids I know had a huge amount of respect for him, still do. My son couldn't be here because he's sick, but he asked me why I was coming. And I told him, I feel it's important to step up and be heard when you feel that someone has been treated wrongly. And that's how I feel about the band losing our director. I feel that this situation should have been handled at Mayfield High School with meetings between any unhappy kids, parents, their parents, the band director, and our principal, Mr. Frost. And I feel that parents and students who wish to advocate for Mr. Lang went unheard. I wrote numerous emails and visited central office, and I never felt my point of view was taken seriously. The band students were interviewed by HR, but what was the outcome of the interviews? We'll probably never know. I understand that personnel issues cannot be divulged, but it was a vacuum of communication for months. From where I stand, LCPS HR is treating teachers as guilty until proven innocent, which is just wrong. As I told my son, if it was me being treated this way, I'd hope others would speak up for me. I personally cannot imagine working for LCPS under the current environment. Your HR department, I feel, doesn't support teachers, and I feel they completely mishandled the situation with Mayfield High School's band director. Thank you.
The next person to speak will be Elizabeth Archuleta.
Hi, good evening. I'm a teacher at Sunrise Elementary, and I was just wondering if I could give you guys some packets. I know that you can't make any public comment, but I just wanted you to see this for something that I'm bringing from my previous school district. Is that okay?
Mr. President, permission
Yes,
to approach the bench?
of course.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll pass them along so you can go ahead. Thank you.
We'll give you a few more seconds to compensate for that loss of time.
Okay. Okay, so I am going to begin my public input with a very quick visual. This is a sweater. It is probably one of the most hideous sweaters you will ever see. I learned how to knit from a student about, I would say, 15 years ago. And it took a long time to become a master knitter. And it took this through positive reinforcement, even as an adult. So after many years, many knitting groups, many lessons, I went from these kinds of rags to knitting soy wraps, different garments where I could read patterns and be a master craftsman. Much like knitting, teaching requires craftsmanship. 2 weeks ago, I had lost I was not approved for a bilingual waiver. And when I called PED, I did not receive any help. One of my main concerns was if the Secretary of Education does not have a background check and cannot be confirmed by the Senate, then why can't I have my waiver? I am new to New Mexico. I used to teach in New Mexico, and I came back from Arizona. So it seems like the PED has an antagonistic relationship with teachers. As Mr. Ruskowski has pointed out, that Finland is not New Mexico. He said something like that. However, I have read Finnish standards and Finnish guidelines, and one of the main operatives that Finland uses in their math curriculum is that students will learn math for pleasure and for fun. Our students love fun and pleasure, so they are not so much more different than Finnish students. Next was his comments towards Manifest Destiny and charter schools. I came from a class last year. My class sizes were pushing 40 in Arizona. My coworkers, my colleagues from there, hopefully will soon be striking, just like they did in West Virginia. So I just want PED to work with teachers. I want HR to work with teachers. I did pass my NMSBAs in Spanish under Governor Richardson. I was invited to go and help write the Spanish standards, so I don't understand how I can't have that waiver. Also, I have a master's degree. I lived and taught in Mexico, and like my students, I know, or not my students per se, but community members, I know what it's like to overstay your visa and be afraid of immigration. When my students look at me, they look at a reflection of themselves. And by not cooperating with HR, PED really harmed our students. I tried in many times to contact PED, but I was really overwhelmed. I had just moved here. I didn't know the curriculum. I didn't know so many things. And that really hurt me having to communicate with PED. Also, like many LCPS students and community members, I have a disability. I am narcoleptic, and that's an autoimmune illness that has a profound effect on your nervous system. It's not like what you see on TV. I sleep like everyone else, but instead of dreaming, when you are in deep sleep, I start dreaming immediately. So I am literally awake and dreaming. I just wanted to, I'm here really to talk on behalf of students, talk on behalf of teachers, because this relationship with PED can no longer go on. The teacher evaluation system here is ridiculous. We're not hurting, I'm sorry, am I overtime? Okay.
You definitely are, yes.
Okay, we're not hurting teachers, we're hurting kids. By having positive interventions, by having clear focuses, by having clear curriculums, by having clear CFAs, RTIs, all of this training that I had in Arizona, we are able to lift up students. And when my fellow educators, because there are many, say that they want to leave, I really do think PED is to blame for this. I would like to talk with you all more about this situation.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want everybody on the board that got this to look at my transcript. The state in In 4 years, the state of Arizona probably invested $40,000 on my professional development. And I don't think PED can say that they do the same for the teachers here.
Thank you. Okay, our next public input person will be Christopher Brown.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, I'm not speaking on an item on the agenda. Rather, I'm sharing with you an experience my family recently had with LCPS Central Administration that you all need to hear about. In 2015, my son started his studies at Mayfield, and at the time, he joined the band. Due to turnover in the program, we got off to a pretty rocky start. But 18 months ago, Eric Frost hired a new band director, Mr. Johnny Lang. Johnny Lang transformed the band from being literally on the brink of disaster to a cohesive and competitive band. The band provides kids at Mayfield a wonderful support network, safe harbor, great friends, and a chance to grow their musicianship. Truth be told, Mr. Lang has a little bit of a hard edge. But Mr. Frost noted, to me personally, he wanted someone to come here with discipline and hard work, and Johnny Lang delivered. About 3 months ago, Mr. Lang ended up getting crosswise with the vice principal at Mayfield at the time, Miss Christina Mullins, over an unknown issue, Las Cruces policy. The outcome of this, that Miss Mullins took it downtown. Mr. Lang was put on administrative leave for unknown reasons, and the kids were without a director the weeks before their winter concert. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Lang eventually returned to work. The kids had a decent concert. The first day back from winter break, Mr. Lang was again put on administrative leave, this time for 7 weeks. Again, no one would tell the people in Mr. Lang's court anything about the issues in play, but it's obvious that parents who did not support him were extremely effective at talking to people at Central. Last week, Mr. Frost advised the parents and the students that Mr. Lang would not be coming back. No reason was given. We now have lost an effective and passionate band director, and the kids are worse for it. What could have been so egregious with Johnny Lang's performance to earn him 7 weeks of administrative leave and not end up in the criminal justice system? I posed this very question to Senora Flores, and she didn't have an answer. It's obvious to me that the central office, and HR in particular, completely mishandled the situation. In not letting Eric Frost handle it, Central violated the #1 rule of HR: take care of problems close to the source. Central then listened to the parents who were critical of Mr. Lang while denying those that supported him equal access. That's nothing short of unequal treatment. We're the people that pay your salaries. What's the end result? The kids lost a passionate band director. Mr. Lang will no longer be working at Mayfield and LCPS, and the children in the band program are the poorer for it. This outcome is unjust. And as a parent, I demand better for the kids at Mayfield. You all have a problem downtown with your HR people, and I implore you to solve it. Thank you.
The next person will be Catherine Davis.
Good evening. I don't have a prepared statement. I've never done this before, so I'm a little nervous. But I'm also here as an advocate for my child, who's also in the Mayfield Band. We just moved here this year, and my son loved the band director. So he's had multiple band directors, and he was so impressed, and he was so pleased, and he was so excited to be in the band. He was so excited to be with the band director who cared so much that he pushed his students to do better, that he asked them to practice, that he asked them to do what they needed to do so that they could compete and do well. And we all know that whoever of you that are parents, when our children don't do what we ask them to do, I think that sometimes we raise our voices and we get frustrated. And this happens, I think, with every teacher. And we're not asking every teacher and every parent to quit being parents and teachers because they are frustrated at their children. We're just wanting them to be better. And I feel that how can our teachers expect to be protected if a few children in their class can run them out of their own classroom. And I agree with what was said. I, as a parent, am very frustrated that I was not given a voice to advocate for my child or myself or the band director, yet there were a couple people who were. I was not given any information. My child came home all the time. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. So I really feel that Mr. Lang and his family were done a great injustice. And I feel he deserves, and his family deserves, a public apology, especially from this board and the Board of Education. I don't see how I can be confident that my son can have a good education when he's not even allowed to have a voice. Thank you.
And the last person for public input is Beverly Weigels.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, board members, and Dr. Ewing. I come before you again today to let you know it has been a whole year since we had our Life After High School Transition and Resource Fair. I am a representative from the staff, teachers, and EAs that have been putting this fair on. This is our second year. We have reached out and extended at the recommendation that we've reached out to all the high schools, to the middle schools that have 8th graders. So this fair is going to be for seniors transitioning from high school into our life, our community as citizens. And so the Life After School will be at Las Cruces High School. Representatives, again, from all the high schools will be there, as well as the middle school teachers that have 8th graders. We're also wanting to transition those 8th graders into our high school. We will have 18 vendors. The community reached out to us this year, and they asked, can we be part of your transitional fair? And also, Culinary Arts reached out to the special needs students, and we joined forces with them. So our general ed students and our special needs students will be doing the culinary arts, serving the refreshments at the transitional fair. This is just wonderful. Dr. Ewing, again, I thank you for telling us to put joy back into what we do the best, and that is to teach. And now we have a whole community. We've also invited the local regions, Deming, Alamogordo, Hatch, to come and join our transitional fair. So we will also have the media there. It will be on Thursday from 4 until 6:30. And I hope to see you guys there. And thank you all for your support.
And that ends the public input section of this meeting. We are now going to get a report from the superintendent, Dr. Gregory Ewing.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, and to the members of our audience. So first, I just want to say to Ms. Weigels, thank you so much for what you do. I'm teaching Thursday night, so I won't be there, but I promise you either, I'm looking at Glenda in the back, Glenda or Roberto will have representatives there, and I'm very proud of the program you've put together for students.
Our whole staff will be there.
So we'll have folks there. Thank you. Mr. President?
Yes.
So this is sponsored by Las Cruces Public School as well as DVR. We should never leave DVR out. And the special ed department has been great in working with us.
Sure.
Dennis Padilla, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and so now, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, and to the members of our audience, I'm going to go through the agenda, budget update. So we are continuing to meet with Mr. Ellison. We're continuing to look at the budget for next year. We do need to remind everyone We don't know what the SEG amount will be from the state yet. We will get that information in early April. Once he has those final figures, then we can actually begin making line item recommendations with our budget committee, with our staff, and with community and stakeholder individuals. So we are committed to doing that. We are committed to having an open and transparent budget process, and we are committed to working for what's best for children in classrooms. So if you have any budget suggestions, I encourage you to reach out to Mr. Ellison and his staff. I can tell you that if you get an answer of yes, then you're doing better than I am, because I always get a no. He does hold a tight line with the budget. We are encouraged that there may be some additional funds for a raise for employees. There may be additional funds at that first step for beginning teachers. So we're looking at that. We do know that the law, as it was presented, had a 2.5%, if I'm not mistaken, for teachers and a 2% for classified. We are going to work with our union representatives. I'm looking to see if they're all here. We will bargain all of that information with them. I am concerned when we treat one set of employees differently from another. So we will look to see what we can do to be as fair as possible to all employees. And so Mr. Ellison and his office remains open. As always, all of our records are public records when it comes to the budget, and we're more than willing to share those. We certainly want to operate in budget matters in the most open and transparent manner possible. And I'm looking at Dr. Serrano, if only we could do that in human resources. But in budget, we do pledge that. Ed, anything else you can think of for the budget while we're on the topic?
I think that covers it. We will also be giving more information as it comes. We're working with all agents, mostly the high school principals now, and we have been receiving input from different groups throughout the process, and we will continue seeking input from a variety of different stakeholders and community as well.
Excellent. And I'm looking, Dr. Wendy Miller Tomlinson's in the back of the room. So to the teachers who are here, or any teachers who are listening or watching us later, Dr. Miller Tomlinson works on those allotments very carefully for each school. We did, when I arrived, make an effort to publish allotments for every single school, and that's still published on the webpage under the superintendent's page. We will do the same thing next year. We will, of course, bring all of that before the board. The board will vote on the budget as well as our allotment recommendations. And so principals already know when they have special categories or special needs to reach out to Dr. Miller Tomlinson, and I also encourage teachers as well. The easiest explanation is if I am a science teacher, I might have 30 students in each science section, but then only 15 for AP Physics. She has to factor that into the equation. And so it's a big job for every single classroom in the district, and Dr. Miller Tomlinson, Ms. Martinez, and that academic division took on the allotment assignment when I arrived. I moved that from human resources because I believe people who are experts in instruction should be driving allotments. And so from my desk to both of you ladies, thank you, job well done. We'll continue to work with individuals and continue to work to make allotments as seamless as possible and as transparent as possible. Next item, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board. I do want to have a brief discussion with you on school safety and security. This will be twofold. First, we did have a task force meeting here with members from the community. We asked for parents and community members to talk to us about what they're seeing as far as safety and security in our schools. They gave us a great list of ideas. We had law enforcement agencies from 5 different groups. If I can name them, we had the Doña Ana Sheriff's Department, we had the Mesilla Marshal, we had Las Cruces Police Department, we had our own LCPD folks here, we had the New Mexico State Police here, and I'm leaving, did I leave one out? And we had Chief Lopez from New Mexico State University Police. We felt like it was a very productive meeting. We asked the parents if they would come back after spring break. We'll schedule a second follow-up meeting to have some conversations. So some things were simple, such as lock the doors, close the gates, and begin to secure school buildings. Teachers were never taught to fear someone coming into a school building with an assault rifle. They were taught curriculum and how to reach children, how to build relationships with children. So we are taking that very seriously. We had a teacher give us an example of when she goes to the playground, she has to use a rock to hold the door open so she can let the kids back in the side door. We decided an easy solution is give the teacher a key to the door. If other people can have a key to the door, why can't a teacher have a key to the door? So we're using common sense. We're doing the best we can. We also have looked at the schools that do not have what we call front office barriers, those soft areas in schools where anyone can just walk in. We've given principals some very specific directions to look at all of those issues, to report back to Ms. Gomez in the back of the room and the assistant superintendents for what their plan will be. We've asked them to move a desk into the hallway if there is an open area and to begin an immediate screening of all individuals on a school campus. So we are taking that very seriously. We're continuing to have conversations with principals. We're continuing to have conversations with police officials and community officials. And we do pledge from this building to be not only transparent, but to be in the forefront of our minds every day, the safety and security of all students. And so, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, and members of the board, we are working very carefully on this each day. I look at Mr. Jaramillo, realizing he has a son that he sends to school every day. And I have to look at him and tell him that that building is safe. We get that. He has two kids in school every day. So we take that role extremely seriously. And then as I look to our teachers, you've often heard me say, when someone comes in a school building with a weapon, there's only two people to shoot, teachers and students. And so the safety and security of our staff is extremely important. So we are working on that. That is in our forefront, and we will continue to give you updates. And then I want to talk for a few moments. Tomorrow is a scheduled National Walkout Day in remembrance of the 17 students and teachers who died in Florida. I have sent written guidance to principals in schools instructing them that tomorrow's activities across the nation, it's to be from 10 a.m. until 10:17 a.m. Here in our district, we're going to make this a curriculum activity. So we're going to bring this into the curriculum, and we're going to allow teachers to do what they do every day, and that is teach. We're going to allow teachers to shine the way we know they know how to shine. We're going to allow teachers to have conversations with students and explain information to students. So I've asked principals that there be no suspension of students who choose to participate in this activity. Students can remain in the school building or they can walk out of the school building if they wish. Because this is a curriculum activity, this is just like any other lesson that occurs in the school day. We are not inviting visitors on the campus to join us. Principals still have at their discretion the ability to admit news media and other folks on their individual campuses if they so wish. But once again, tomorrow will be a teaching day. It will be a lesson of civics. It will be a lesson of U.S. history. It will be a lesson of government. Students who wish to participate certainly may do so. Those who do not can also participate in the activity by expressing their viewpoints. We don't want there to be any recourse to any student or teacher based on their political beliefs. That is not the essence of the activity tomorrow. The activity tomorrow is to remember 17 individuals who lost their lives and to allow all of our teachers to do a teaching lesson on civics. And so, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, and members of the board, I know you may have some questions, and if you do, I'm certainly willing to engage in a dialogue with you. I do want to invite the board to participate with us tomorrow as members of the Board of Education, along with members of the cabinet and the executive cabinet, and I'm looking to the back of the room, as well as all of your support staff. If you want to go to any of our school locations, certainly I think teachers would appreciate any help we can give them at any time during the day. High schools will look very different from middle schools, from elementary schools. All of that guidance has been given to principals, and our principals are going to do what good leaders do every day, and they're going to use common sense, and they're going to guide students through this activity. Mr. President, might there be any questions from the board?
We might want to generate a discussion about where various school board members might want to go tomorrow to participate in this.
Yes, sir. So,
Personally, I would like to go to Oñate, and maybe I can touch base with Mr. Shapakan about how that would play out if that's appropriate.
so he's giving us the thumbs up from the audience. So, okay, Mr. Shephakam, my boss will be in your building tomorrow morning. Are you rogering my message? Okay, so he arrives at 5:30 every morning. The activity begins at 10 a.m., and so, Mr. President, I think a 9:45 arrival would be ample time.
We'll talk later and maybe make some arrangements.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody
Any
else?
other board members
Yes.
wish to join us?
Yeah, Mr. Jaramillo?
Mr. President, I almost called, that was a hard one. I was going to call you Senora or Madam. But Mr. President,
Take it as a compliment.
I would like to, if I could, go to Centennial High School.
Yes.
And if that's possible. And I also just want to take just a brief moment, and I wanted to kind of just touch base with Dr. Ewan had talked about. I think this is a teachable moment. Looking through the eyes of an early childhood person. What's happening tomorrow is not about red or blue, or about a donkey or an elephant. This is a teachable moment that we as parents should be having these conversations, and we expect these conversations to happen in school as well. And so I really want to make sure that those out there understand that this is not about what color or where you stand on the fence, and because but really to get the conversation going, and really take advantage of a teachable moment in early childhood. As we walk by, we're walking out and we see a spider web. That is a teachable moment. It's not planned in the curriculum, but we need to go and we need to talk about it and all that sort of stuff. And I consider this one of those teachable moments. So I commend the district for being proactive on this rather than reactive. And I just want to say that I know that children will benefit from this teachable moment in our district, and not only and they may not see the results of this teachable moment till they're later on, several years down the road as adults, but they will always remember this teachable moment. So I think we have a window of opportunity to allow children to discuss this very important event that's happening around us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, Vice President.
I have a comment. If we've gotten any response from middle schools, I would like to attend a middle school. And I know Dr. Lozano was going to keep tabs on that. So maybe you can let us know what's available. But also, if Las Cruces High School needs someone, I'd be happy to be there.
Thank you. Mr. Castro?
I'm sorry I
Secretary?
won't be able to attend. I have a previous commitment, but I'm a very strong believer in inculcating more civics in our children, because our country's in trouble right now, and part of the problem is that I think we don't have enough that in the system at this point. Starting with parents, and of course the school is
Sure.
has a big role in it, and this is a great opportunity to inculcate those civics responsibilities.
Yes. Thank you. Senora?
Yes, I was recently in Los Angeles, and that's where I'm born and raised. And during that time, as I was reading the newspaper and watching the news, I was reminded of the walkouts in East LA in 1968. And I finally came to realize what motivated me. I was 13 at the time, and I didn't participate in those walkouts. I would never have been allowed to walk out. But I remember believing that if these students have a voice, if they had an opportunity, they spoke up for their needs. And there was a different issue. It's not the same issue as this. They were asking for equity in the schools. And so from those things that I saw as a child or as a teenager, it impacted the trajectory of my life. So this is an opportunity for our students to also feel that they can speak and be listened. And that's all we think. As myself, it meant a great deal to me. So I look forward to tomorrow, and I'd like to be at Las Cruces High School. And we can both do it, I think. Okay, sure.
I'm looking to the deputy superintendent. Did you get a list of where they're going to be?
I did, and Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, we have a middle school PLC with all the principals in the morning, so if we have any information, we can get that out, share that information with you of any middle school participation as well.
Okay,
So we'll
great.
send that to you early in the morning.
Okay.
Excellent.
And we owe this to 17 people who died in Florida. And we need to try to figure out a way to stop this. And Mr. Superintendent, do you have any other announcements?
Yes, sir. So may I continue then with
Yes.
the agenda? Yes, sir. So next I'm going to move to item number 3, NEA Las Cruces. President Albertson, do you have comments tonight? All right.
Good evening and congratulations, Mr. President. I feel your pain. Excitement. Good evening, members of the board, colleagues, Superintendent Ewing. NEA Las Cruces is engaging in a winter listening tour, visiting schools and conversing with staff members about what issues are important to them and their classrooms. So I'm going to share with you some of the conversations that we've had. Many educators have asked about bargaining. We are pleased to announce that we had a conference call with Deputy Superintendent Jaquez and Dr. Lozano and national trainers for interest-based bargaining. We met last week, and we have set our bargaining and training to start April 9th. We are really excited to have this facilitated bargaining for the 2018-2019 school year, and we're really hoping to be able to bring it to a close, hopefully before the budget has been set for the district, or rather the budget has been passed. We're also hearing that educators and students are in need. Teachers report that they are taking home less money now than they did 10 years ago, especially given the rise of insurance costs. If you look at trend lines, the numbers of students have remained constant, while certified staff numbers have steadily decreased. We are really appreciative of the district's commitment to and efforts to reduce central office costs and to restore funds to instruction. And we are cautiously optimistic that there will not be reductions of staff at school sites next year. Because we know increased class loads make it difficult for students to receive the individual attention that they deserve. We are currently analyzing class sizes as well as the total number of students that educators work with, because we know that sometimes, looking at a snapshot of a day is very different than the total number of students that teachers are responsible for, knowing their names and their levels and things like that. By starting the bargaining process early and in working with the district during the budget development process, we are confident that we can address these serious issues that matter most to our educators and directly impact students. Finally, the top issue educators brought up was the teacher evaluation system. It's no secret that the flawed NMPED teacher evaluation system has caused low morale among our professionals. Educators give their time, heart, and as Ms. Gary mentioned, their limited salaries to their students, only to receive poor evaluations based on flawed data. Despite reassurances from the district that the ratings won't impact teacher employment, these evaluations are a blow to the professionalism of educators and continue to drive good teachers from teaching. NEA Las Cruces has begun conversations with teachers through an evaluation action team to find out what will help to support teachers grow and enhance student learning. We look forward to working with the district by bringing forth the insights of our current teaching staff to help shape a mutually agreed upon plan for the future. As we transition to a new state administration in Santa Fe, we believe that LCPS, working together with NEA Las Cruces, will once again emerge as a statewide leader in developing an evaluation system that is fair, transparent, and allows for improvement of teaching and learning. So I'd like to thank Dr. Ewing and the district for their commitment to working with NEA Las Cruces. We've had many productive conversations on recent topics, from student safety and discipline to support for staff. It is refreshing to work with a district leadership who is listening and responsive, and we look forward to our continued collaboration.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to reach back out. Dr. Wendy, if you'll make contact with Wendy, do you have the allotment sheets for each school yet? We can get those for this year. And then I think we need to, what we noticed when I came in as a new person, is that there were individuals on the allotment sheets, but then those individuals really weren't placed in a school. So sometimes if you're trying to compare past year's allotments, the allotments were budgeted, but then never placed in a school building. So I think we have taken much better care and caution to take all of that off the budget, and Ed continues to work with that very carefully. So,
And we can definitely see that from 2016, 17 to 17, 18, it's not near as dramatic and scary as it had been. So
Wendy will work with you on those sheets. And
Absolutely.
then I do just want to, we can both say publicly, I completely support an overhaul of the teacher evaluation system.
Thank you.
Once we have a new person in the governor's house, I will come before the board and ask for permission to alter the evaluation system if we're given that authority by PED. And so for you to know, we started a few weeks ago talking in my office. Wendy and I are looking at what that instrument could look like for the short term, the rest of the school year from January through June, and then what it would look like in the future. So please let the teachers know we are committed from my administration to going before the board and asking permission to alter the instrument. I do not believe in the instrument as it is written.
thank you. And I think, we're ready for some relief and someone different at the helm. So
So thank
at the
you
state
so
level.
much.
Thank you so much.
And then President Valdespino, I'm looking, is she here? Okay, so we have no comments. Okay. And then, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, under announcements, I just want to recognize, where is he? Dr. Sanchez is in the audience tonight. He's hiding back there. So, Dr. Sanchez, would you please stand? We certainly want to welcome him back. He'll be Deputy Superintendent. We're all fighting in the executive cabinet over who gets to see him the most often and where his office is going to be already. So thank you for coming down tonight. I look forward to working with you, and I know that the entire team does. And I promised Erlinda it took more than one person to come back into her shoes, and so we're continuing to prove that. And be nice to her and see what she'll give you in information over the next. We're all asking for more and more information, but seriously, welcome back, Dr. Sanchez. Thank you for coming, and thank you for agreeing to join our team again.
Thank you, Dr. Ewing, and thanks to the board.
And Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of the board, that will conclude the superintendent's report. And now I'm going to move, if I may, Mr. President, just to the student advisor report. So Ernesto, as I see you over there, you are the reason all of us come to work every day. You are the reason that all of the teachers, and when you hear them, they're fighting for more teachers to be in front of students like you. And your safety and security is what keeps us up at night. And so we want you to know that we truly care about students. We truly care about your safety and your security. And we truly care about giving you the best education we can by remaining neutral in our viewpoints. And I don't know that we all do that every day as best we could. And so I want to invite you, as you give your report, anything that you see that we're doing that we can do better. That's why we have a student on the dais.
That's right.
And so my office is always open. Cameron is not shy about coming to see me, and so I'm going to give that same invitation to you. And you can certainly email me. I just have a rule. When any of you email me, I want you to copy your principal on the email. And I do that for your safety, so that when you're talking to any of us, your principal is in on the loop. So, Mr. President, if I may, I'll turn the microphone back over to you for Ernesto.
Yes, and now we are ready for a report from Ernesto, who is our student advisor.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, and Superintendent Ewing. Any feedback? We had a short meeting today for the SAC, the Student Advisory Council. We talked about the walkout tomorrow, and we affirmed our opposition to any district-wide walkout. But we also feel that students should be able to peacefully pay their respects to the 17 lives that were lost in Parkland High School. We want to make sure that students are free to voice their opinions on the topic without teachers or administrators influencing their beliefs. And then for our report, this is from all the high schools that were at the meeting today, from Arrowhead Park and from the Medical Academy. We have volunteers that were sent out to the Spring Fest and the Arts Fair from Las Cruces by the end of March. We have a book drive for MacArthur Elementary School, and we are partnered with Mayfield to make that happen. From Centennial High School, they are actually doing school drills taking place for better school safety. And also their media program is going to STN Convention to compete and obtain a second national championship. From Cruces High School, they also will be going to the STN for a national media program, and they have their open house March 28th. For Mayfield, they will be working with us, the NHS, the National Honor Society, to supply care packages to MacArthur Elementary, and also their FFA is proud to say that their teams will be competing at state and qualify to nationals. Finally, from Oñate High School, their cheer team just won 2 first-place trophies and are currently getting ready for state. And their student council, as you saw, is collecting dimes for children with Down syndrome. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions for my report.
Board, does anybody have any questions? Ernesto?
Questions?
Oh, Ernesto, thank you
Thank
for
you.
your comprehensive report.
We invite you back again.
Oh, absolutely.
Good job. Thank you, Ernesto. And so to the members of our audience, I have a rule, so we don't use their last names. This is for their protection. So when we call him Ernesto, it's not out of disrespect, but we don't want his last name on TV. So thank you so much, Mr. President, and now I'm going to turn the agenda back over to you.
It's
Yes,
back
sir.
to me.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I am going to quickly turn it back over to Dr. Serrano, who is going to give us a report on human resources.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. Today, I'm going to give you the employee report since our last board meeting, certified and classified. And as promised last time, I actually got 3 quotes. I picked one. I'm going to do a quote, something related to HR that I can connect to our work, okay? Because it is tough work, and we have to do tough work and make those courageous, decisions and have those courageous conversations for the district. So for the certified employees, since the last board meeting, we had 6 offers of employment, 7 resignations, and 10 retirements. And for the area of classified, we had 8 offers of employment, 7 resignations, and 10 retirements. And we are looking forward to working with our Division of Academics, as Dr. Ewing did mention. They are providing the allotments, and we're going to work together pretty soon to do our staffing. Just to preview something, I just talked to the superintendent and being very creative. Our HR department, thanks to Ms. Shirley O'Brien and Terry Pinedo, we're brainstorming in April, in about a month or so, or maybe less. About 3 weeks from now, we're going to have a job fair here in the district, a job fair for substitutes and a job fair for teachers. Our goal is to compete, not only compete, but beat the soon-to-be graduates of NMSU, UTEP, et cetera. Our goal is to beat the neighboring districts to the best candidates that are available that want to be part of this great district, okay? And with that being said, let me get the quote. One of the things that in HR department, in my training of 4 years, going on 5 years in HR, and people need to understand it, the one key word that I've learned through the years is confidentiality. And we take pride in this district that we are very confidential. And people want to know stuff, but we are here to protect the employees of our district, and we will not divulge information that is confidential. So with that being said, that is kind of like my tie into my quote tonight, confidentiality. And bottom line, it is our duty. We will not sweep anything under the rug. We are going to look into allegations and take our long process to make sure we give due process and go through a thorough process to make sure we find the facts. And we're about finding facts, okay? That's our goal in HR and when making decisions in the best interest of our students. So the quote tonight, this is the quote, and I bring this quote because a lot of times we deal with those courageous conversations with employees, and what I like sometimes is that when we meet with employees and have those heart-to-heart, respectful, sympathetic discussions with them, sometimes it's good to hear that sometimes an employee will say, you know what, learning opportunity, I'm reflecting, and that reflective process to me is very important, that, you know what, learning from this in the future, I'm going to do it this way and I'm going to do it better. And I think for the most part, what I've seen is a lot of times with all of us, when we drop the ball, that's a saying, when we drop the ball, we have to pick it back up and learn and make good for it. So the quote for tonight is, to change your life, you must change yourself. To change yourself, you must change your mindset. And I think that's the connection to confidentiality and also to reflecting on our work every day and trying to be better every day. So with that, I stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, do any of you want to comment on Dr. Serrano's report?
I just want to thank you for bringing up the topic of confidentiality and due process, because people don't understand that we're not hiding anything. It's just we're protecting the person. And it's very hard. It's hard for us not to say, and generally speaking, I don't know the whole process either. The HR knows the process, and that's where it needs to stay. So I thank you for your work.
Thank you. And our goal is to not leave any rock unturned. We basically follow through with every lead in anything we work on, any investigation, and to make sure to treat people we're investigating like if it was us being investigated. We take that pride in HR. Thank you for that.
You're doing a beautiful job. You have my 100% support, and I thank you for what you do each and every day.
Thank you. My honor to be in this district. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Serrano.
I second that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, we are, I think, ready to move on to another report, which would be instruction, and Chief Academic Officer Erlinda Martinez.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. Tonight we have 3 items we're seeking your approval, and they're Head Start items. So the first item will be the Head Start Consolidated Application Grant for the 2018-19 school year, the Head Start Carryover Grant for the 2018-19 school year, and the Head Start Child Abuse and Neglect Policies and Procedures. And to bring those forward and make the presentation, I'm calling on Dr. Maria Arteaga.
Thank you.
And Gabe, you're never going to hear me say this again, but I'm cold. It's cold up here. Sorry, Mr. President.
Miss Kingery was dancing out over there. I saw her dancing.
Okay, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent, I will be presenting the 3 items that I need approval on, and let's go ahead and begin. So the first item that I will be speaking on is on the continuation grant for next school year.
I'm really not cold.
Okay, so as you see before you, for next year, our total budget is going to be $7,794,382, and it is divided in the following categories. In our district, I take pride because of all the in-kind that our district provides to us. For example, utilities, we spend very little in utilities. All the support that we have from the principals to all the other staff that are in the buildings, to physical plant and everyone else, I thank them for all the support that they give us. So the majority of this personnel salary and fringe are for our staff, the teachers, the educational assistants, the parent engagement assistants, and the facilitators, and of course, the administrative staff, which are the secretaries, and of course, the director. Professional development, the $39,934, that has to stay in that category. We cannot move it anywhere else. So that one is particularly used for travel for any of our staff to go to conferences, or actually to hire a consultant to come and work with our staff. The remainder is on salaries. The 38,000, that's where it's like to repairs or couple of utilities for our portables. And of course, our indirect cost of $69,741. So that's where the total is. We do have to contribute for the non-federal share of almost $700,000 that we get the in-kind. And that's where we also have to be very creative, and we have to document as to how we're arriving to those figures. And if you would please go to the next page. What I wanted to do right now is just to highlight the changes that we have. So that's why I designated this section for it. So in our staffing, what you will see is currently we have 18 teachers. We're going to be adding 3 more teachers to our program. We will have our 21 educational assistants. But as far as the parent engagement assistants, to be more strategic, we are actually going to increase the number of full-day programs and the educational assistants in order for us to be more equitable. We have some parent engagement assistants who are working in a double session. So in each session, we have anywhere from 15 to 16 children on average. So if a parent engagement assistant is working with both, then you're having around 30 to 32 families that you're working with. While a parent engagement assistant is working on a full-day program, it's on average 17. So what we're going to do, and what I'm proposing to do...
Let's lower this.
Okay, what we're proposing to do, thank you, Linda, is having a parent engagement assistant work with 2 teachers so that they can have the equitable amount of files. And when a parent engagement assistant is at one site, we're also proposing to hire some lunch monitors that we used to have previously to come and support during the lunch period. And that would be putting more children, providing more service hours for our children in our program. So in the bottom, as you will see, the 16 full-day programs would be at the following sites, and the 5 part-day, the double sessions, would be at those sites. So do I stand for any questions at this time regarding the consolidated application continuation?
Thank you. Board members, any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
So then do we move to?
Yeah, should we go ahead and, I will entertain a motion to approve the Head Start Consolidated Application Grant for the 2018-2019 school year.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote positively, so that is a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Okay, so then moving on to the next one, this is a carryover. The carryover for next year, we're looking at the funding of 16-17 school year. And the total amount there is $32,828. So what we're trying to do at Booker T. Washington right now, we have currently 4 classrooms. We're adding 2 more classrooms to Booker T. Washington. Well, in the courtyard of Booker T., which again, it'll be a safety issue. I mean, we're supporting the safety of our children. We want to turn that, and I visited with Gabe, I visited with, physical plant as well. We want to make that area, and especially the principal, a playground for little ones. So the equipment would be going to Booker T. Washington for that amount. So I stand for questions.
Board members, questions?
No questions.
Are we ready? I will entertain a motion to approve the Head Start carryover grant for 2018-2019. Do we have a
second?
Okay.
I'll make a motion. He said.
Senora Flores has made the motion and seconded by Secretary Castro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I vote in favor. Again, passes unanimously. And now we can go on to the third item.
One. So this third item, We had a overview of findings report, and one of the things that we needed to do is be more strategic and purposeful in the way that we support our staff, and especially for the protection of our children. So going back, we looked at the Head Start child abuse and neglect policies and procedures for Head Start. So we have to abide by the performance standards which are indicated there. So what you see before you are the areas that we just modified in order to improve this policy and procedure. And because you're the governing body, you also have to approve, but we will all go through them. So on the first one, and basically on February the 28th, 2018, is when the policies were actually written. They've already been approved by Policy Council at this point. That's why I'm sharing them with you. So the first one is looking more at ensuring that every volunteer, parent, guardian, anyone working with our children, if any staff member is suspicious, they need to do the report immediately to CYFD. On the second one is that we're wanting to make sure that the staff, our staff, is aware that if they need additional training, that we're going to go ahead and do that. This year, we provided more support during mid-year, and we're continuing to support our children by also implementing a Kimochis program. So that is for the safety of our children, more awareness on the social and emotional part, so that we can actually provide these positive strategies when we're working with the little ones, especially if any of those little ones have a challenging behavior when they're coming to school. And on the third one, what we're looking at there is that the leadership team is going to implement, and they're going to abide by the management system. So what they're doing is they're strategically working every facilitator with 3 classroom teams, and we're actually going deep so that they could be more observant, more cognizant. So if they see anything, they can be a support, because it's always about supporting our staff to provide quality services to our children. And at this time, if you need additional information, I'm here for
Board
questions.
members? Questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the Head Start child abuse and neglect policies and procedures.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, that was moved by Vice President Dahlman and second by Mr. Jaramillo. And all those in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the highlights of my year last year was visiting Head Start. I highly urge all board members to do that. I remember what my 3- and 4-year-olds were like, and watching the 3- and 4-year-olds at Head Start purposefully learning and actively engaged is just an astonishing thing to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your visits and your support.
Okay, and so now we are ready to move to the exciting area of finance. Exciting and incredibly important. Chief Financial Officer Ed Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. When you spend a number of years in finance, it does become exciting.
I know.
Although not everybody shares that excitement. So. First item on the agenda tonight is the approval. We're requesting approval for the RFP. And I just first want to thank the board for allowing us to get this into you at a late entry. We are meeting federal deadlines on this, and we are actually, thanks to the work of Mr. Manning, we're saving the district about $2 million in doing this. And so that was kind of the reason why we had to do that. So I appreciate that.
If we could we just recognize Will for that work and thank him very much?
Thank you.
You can save us $2 million anytime.
Yes, sounds good.
And so this is a RFP 1718-04P. It's Category 2 E-rate technology infrastructure upgrade. And the reason for the upgrade is that we have aging network systems and equipment, much of which has exceeded its useful life, and some of it is no longer supported by the manufacturer. And so and a lot of this is critical equipment as well. And so we are looking at the state of New Mexico has capital outlay funds that assist public schools in correcting deficiencies in the broadband infrastructure. And then this also qualifies for E-rate. So between the state and federal assistance, we're looking at about 82% in funding assistance for this project. And so based on the committee's recommendation, or based on the committee's review, we are recommending approval of awarding the contract to Presidio Network Solutions Group, LLC. And with that, I'll stand for any questions on the RFP or the evaluation process.
Any board members, questions?
No, no
Okay, I think we're ready to move then to entertain a motion. I will entertain a motion to approve RFP 17-18-04P E-rate technology infrastructure upgrade.
I so move.
I second.
It's moved by Secretary Castro and seconded by Senora Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. It passes.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. Matt, you got your work to do.
He's excited.
The second item on the agenda are the minutes for the Finance Advisory Committee meeting held on February 15th, 2018. Just kind of a brief overview of that meeting. There were the consent agenda items for the Board of Education's regular session on February 20th were reviewed and discussed. The 2017 audit report, the January 2018 financial report, and the second quarter actuals report were also reviewed and discussed. And then there was also a conversation regarding the 2018 budget and some guidelines that we had looked over. And so with that, I would stand for any questions on the minutes from that meeting.
Board members?
I don't have any questions.
It appears that there are no questions on that.
Great. Thank you. The last item is the February financial report. And just a couple of quick items on that. The year-to-date through February 28, 2018, in the operational fund, the revenues we had received were $121 million, and expenditures were about $104 million. This equates to about a expenditure rate of 55.8% of the total budget for the year. And when I compare that to last year at this time, revenues were about $121 million, so about the same, and then expenditures were about $103 million, which is close to the same, and again, the rate of expenditures was about 55.7. And so very similar revenues, expenditures, and rate of those expenditures from last year to this year. So I will stand for any questions on the financial
Questions,
report.
board members?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have no report from operations, and we have no report from technology and research, and I might as well not read the ones that we're not having. I think we're ready to move on to board items. A discussion of new business. It would be discussion and selection of the Bond Oversight Committee. So,
Mr. President,
let us begin discussion.
We're going to bring forward the Deputy Superintendent with your permission,
That is a great idea.
just to review with the board, and then we will solicit names if you're ready for those tonight. So, Mr. Deputy Superintendent.
All righty. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Superintendent. So a few meetings back, I had come before you and requested that, or suggested, I guess I should say, that we create a bond oversight committee of possible community members to join our team as we move forward in making decisions. So we've been working on actually identifying some of our projects and kind of starting to align those and just get ideas going, but we are at the point that we would be really excited and ready if you so choose to appoint members for our bond oversight committee, which will help us move forward. A couple of exciting things just to share with you that we would use this committee for example, is our contingency fund. As we worked through the bond process, I know we put in some different items, and as we move through things, we talked about kind of that idea that with our natural disasters we've had recently, the increase in construction costs that could possibly occur, but there's also some exciting things there with some security money set aside by the legislature and signed by the governor. So that might be that might present some opportunities for us. Even though it came from capital outlay money, but the capital outlay money with our PSFA rankings list might also provide some savings and some other opportunities for us to do some work at schools. So I stand before you for questions. And again, I am suggesting that we put together, and either you can, Dr. Young, I don't know if you want the board to email those to myself.
If the president will allow, if you have names tonight, we would like to publicly name those individuals. And then if I can look at Robin back there, if she'll take names down. And then if we need to follow up with you, we will. So, yes,
Okay,
so, Mr.
let us
President?
proceed with that.
Yes, sir.
I have a name to enter. It's Craig Fenske, Fenske. And he actually is a tree steward and has worked with the recycling program for the city of Las Cruces. So I think he would be a good individual. That's all I have right now.
So, and Mr. President, we're gonna, if the board so chooses, we're offering each board member to name two names, and then I would come forward with one name.
Okay.
Okay, is anybody else ready to come forth with?
I didn't follow up on the two, well, I actually talked to a few people, but I didn't follow up with them. So rather than do that tonight, if I could, Mr. Hawkes, get that to you maybe by tomorrow midday?
We will bring this back again at another public board meeting.
Okay.
Because we actually want the board to approve the slate of members.
Okay.
So,
Mr.
Vice President Dahlman?
Mr. President. Forgive me, Mr. President.
You can't have two vice presidents.
Dr. Ewing. Mr. Hawkes, I have my two names ready. However, the question that they both asked were, how many times were they going to meet and when?
Good question.
Mr. President, Ms. Dahlman, so good question. So we will work around people's schedules. So our whole goal is it won't be like a weekly meeting. So I envision it at kind of as we get started, it's probably going to be more. We'll probably meet, I'm going to guess 4 or 5 times before summertime, just to kind of look at projects and kind of start to organize that. And talking with Dr. Ewing and Mr. Ellison, I mean, bond sales are at earliest going to be summer, early fall. So we'll just work on some organized work. We shouldn't have long meetings, but we would probably go back and spend some time explaining our projects, kind of maybe doing some things. So to answer your question, 4 or 5 meetings from now until probably July as we got started, monthly probably. And as we go through it, it's probably going to be monthly to quarterly depending on the work we have before us.
Okay, well, the two names that I have, they're both parents and staff members. So bear that in mind as far as how long you keep them there.
Absolutely.
So one of them is Elizabeth Apodaca. And she's on our email. And then the other one is Mr. Adrian Gaitan.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to confirm the names that I have, so that'll have to be forwarded to you via email.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Castro?
I don't have any.
Okay. Okay.
I will send you the other one. I just haven't contacted them yet to ask them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr.
Okay, well,
President,
okay,
with
thank you.
permission, I'm going to ask Ms. Martinez to work with the student advisors. And so my choice will be, Ernesto, I would like a student to represent me. And so if you could work with the Student Advisory Council, and if Ms. Martinez approves the selection, so perhaps the students could each have conversations, and then if Ms. Martinez will make the final selection, that would be acceptable to me. And then, Mr. President, if we may, legal counsel is advising that we entertain a motion tonight to approve an 11-member advisory board council to be 2 members appointed by each board member and 1 by the superintendent. And then that would allow board members to give us names. So if you're so inclined, I could read that motion to you again?
Surely.
Okay, so if there could be a motion to approve an 11-member board advisory council with 2 members to be appointed by each board member and 1 member to be appointed by the superintendent to oversee and give recommendations on the bond, and the meeting dates to be determined.
Okay, you've just heard the motion. Is there somebody?
So moved.
who will- And a second?
Second.
Okay, and that was the motion made by Senora and seconded by Vice President Dahlman. All those in favor?
Aye.
I say aye, so that is now unanimously approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. So now I'm going to check with legal counsel. The board may email us names. So as you have your names, if you just simply email those to us, we will put together the council, and then we will go in front of that council with expenditures and ideas and ask for their review, and we will give you that review as we bring information before the board, so that there's another set of eyes looking at information in addition to the board.
That sounds good. I notice we have no old business. That is obviously a testament to President Flores, who left us in this fine state. So now we will move on to board member business, board member reports, and just go in any order that you feel like it.
I have no report.
Carrie, you have one?
I do have a report, Mr. President.
Yes.
Okay, so Senora Flores and I met with the mayor of Mesilla, Ms. Nora Barraza, and Marshal Casey Albert to discuss security in district schools in the town of Mesilla. Later that week, the board, along with Dr. Ewing, and the cabinet met for a school board retreat. Many topics were discussed, and I felt that it was a very productive gathering. The week of February 26th, I attended an ethnic studies task group led by Dr. Hahn and Dr. Lozano. On March 1st, I met with Ms. Viscoli to listen to her New Mexico Against Gun Violence and Awareness program. And then on March 8th, Mr. David Morales invited all of us to the Enlace Youth Action Research Conference at the Doña Ana Community College on the east side of town. This was my first time on that particular campus and my first time at the Enlace Conference. I sat in on several presentations, topics ranging from immigration/DACA, body shaming, depression, NFL protests/social injustice, and LGBTQ civil rights. If there is one overall impression I left with, that is that our children are crying for help and change. They are very aware of our social issues. They know things are not right, not fair, or equitable. I was so happy to see 2 of my former students participating and voicing their concerns. Thank you, Mr. Morales, Dr. Adams, and all Enlace teachers for such a powerful and poignant event. And finally, these are the presentations that I wish our state and national education departments would attend so that they can witness firsthand our students' level of proficiency, expression, articulation, and comprehension. Thank you.
Okay.
If I can go.
Okay. Secretary Castro, would you like to?
Mr. President, I also want to take the opportunity to welcome Dr. Sanchez. It's been really a pleasure to have you with a big an integral part of our transition that turned out to be very successful. And I'd like to also make note of that Mr. Frank that's taking over as president. He's got some, I don't know if it's big shoes to fill or
Very big.
Small shoes. Small shoes.
But I'm sure he'll meet up to the challenge, and
Yeah.
and thank you very much for taking that responsibility.
Thank you. Senora.
I attended the ethnic studies along with Ms. Dahlman, and that's always, we worked on standards and how they can connect, how we can wrap them around the concept of ethnic studies or the other way around. And visited the Language Academy last Wednesday at Crossroads campus. They have a wonderful group of families, staff, and children all working, learning, and sharing with each other. Everyone looked engaged and focused, from the littlest student to the oldest student. And thanks to Mr. Aldo Lopez and Tim, I don't know your last name, who works security there, for the work that they do. It was very comfortable. Everyone seemed happy, and it was good to see them there. I stood with Café early one morning to protest Operation Streamline and supported the activists that were there. Operation Streamline is a mass sentencing for undocumented, and by my being there, it reminds others that it affects our families and our students. I was not allowed to say anything, though, so I was quiet. I made it to the Enlace Youth Action Conference, as Ms. Dahlman said, and saw many presentations by passionate, engaged youth sharing their research with authority and sincerity. It was a great morning overall. Congratulations to all the students and teachers that participated, especially Mr. Morales and Dr. Adams from NMSU, who has been, and Mr. Marquez, who have been working so diligently for the past 10, 11, 12 years that Enlace program has been in Las Cruces Public Schools. And one of the things that I found was most interesting, the topics were all amazing, but one of them was on Mayfield and how much money they did an equity study of how much money was spent at each high school. And they came to realize that Mayfield has had a lot of improvement. It's just not the cosmetic improvement that they might have hoped for, or they did not like what was done for that cosmetic improvement. But I said I was happy to hear that, because the students felt better about the equity in the school system. Dahlia Lithwick with Slate Magazine wrote an article, "They were trained for this moment." It is about the students from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Senator Rubio said they were infected with arrogance and boasting when he tried to talk over them. As I quote from this article, their eloquence and poise also represent the absolute vindication of the extracurricular education they received at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. According to the article, this school has the programs and enrichment that do not exist in most schools because they get cut. Like public speaking and debate, they were taught drama, media, free speech, political activism, and were able to use their skills to get their points across to accomplished politicians and media. They've been very successful with their message. Some students became journalists during the horrific event itself and documented for others to know what they went through. They were filming during the action. So they were that cognizant of what they were living. They were practicing political engagement to the fullest. I highly recommend reading this article, as we would all benefit to see what works in schools. High quality and relevant advocacy skills to enhance public education. Public education does work, and when we invest in it. And finally, I have one off the point subject that's come up. I got a call from Sun News earlier today, and they wanted to know if I had in any way tried to influence our student advisory. Well, all I had done was sent, it was a letter to the editor from Miranda Viscoli that she had put in the Santa Fe, New Mexican newspaper. And so I passed it on, and I added a comment that maybe they could have a discussion on walkouts. Now, I think it was misunderstood by some of the students. I don't know, because I haven't really talked to them. But I feel that we, the board, or board members,
Do not influence what they say and do. As you have seen today, we're not necessarily on the same page. But that is democracy, and I value it. And I value your point of view, and I value what you have to say. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. So that's all I want to say. I wanted to go public with that because I don't want anyone to say that we are trying to influence or use our students in any way. They speak for themselves. Thank you.
And I also went to the Enlace program, and it's everything that Vice President Dahlman has said. The students are amazing. I also went to an amazing choir program a couple weeks ago at Oñate. It was a cross-section of middle school students. They did 4 songs. They were all terrific, and it was very enlightening and enjoyable. And I'm sure I did a few other things too, but I can't quite remember them. So at this point, I think I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, if I may, so I just want to look to the students. I can assure you, Senora Flores and I don't always agree on everything, and I still get invited for lunch and for dinner. So I encourage you to speak your minds, and I encourage you to be the students you are. And I'm living proof that I'm still here, I'm still employed, and I know there are days that you and I haven't agreed on a variety of topics. And so part of learning and part of being a great student is learning to get your own voice. And our job is to give you information to get your own voice. I don't want anyone giving you a voice. You have your own voice. And so, Mr. President, I just, as I always do, want to close by saying to students how proud I am of you, how proud I am of the studies you do each day, and how proud I am to be affiliated and to be your leader.
Thank you for that. And I still have that motion on the floor to adjourn if anybody is...
I'll accept that motion or move it.
Okay, and a second?
Second. I forget what it is.
I have never seen it so hard to get a motion to... All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great meeting, Ed. Great meeting.
Good job, man.